welcome to Library Connection. I'm Mandy Cantrell from the B.B. Comer Memorial Library here in Sylacauga. I'm glad you've joined us. Before I get started, I want to thank TV47, Chris, Robert, everyone who makes it possible for us to put on our show for you today. Today I'm very excited. We're taping this on a Monday. This is the first day of our summer reading program performances that we have come in. I'm very excited. Our first guest, my first guest, is Stewart Mann. He's a storyteller, actor, teaching artist, writer, you name it. Great. And he's driven over from Atlanta today. You're going to do our show at 10, and thank you for coming early to be
always
here.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Great.
Yeah.
You came last year. Also, we loved your stories, and I enjoyed doing an interview with you. But before we get started about what you do, tell us about yourself.
Well, it's kind of tied in with what I do. I'm an actor, a storyteller, teaching artist, which is kind of a new term, which relates to someone who is trained in an art form, but also up to speed with educational practices, and often does work either in schools or in libraries like this, or in community settings, putting together things. And I also write occasionally. I live in Atlanta. I have a family. I have two sons who are grown now. They're 20 and 23 years old. And I'm originally from a small town in New Jersey, just outside of New York City. And then when I was 12 years old, we moved to West Palm Beach, Florida. And then I went to college in Boston, Massachusetts. Lived in New York for a while to study to be an actor, and then went and got my master's degree at a theater training program at the University of San Diego in San Diego, California. So I had the opportunity to live in San Diego, which is quite beautiful, and moved to Atlanta after that when I met the person who went on to become my wife. And we moved to Atlanta together. It's many years ago now.
That is wonderful. So you've lived several different places. That's exciting. Well, I know, now first when you finished school, did you act or teach? What did you do?
When I finished school, I wanted to be an actor. And so I actually went to New York City and enrolled in a program at a place called the Neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater, which is not actually a playhouse. It used to be a playhouse. Now it's just a theater school. And there are probably some people names you would recognize who have gone through that program. And then I stayed in New York for a couple of years and was doing what we call pounding the pavements. And auditioning and performing way off Broadway, and also did a little bit of touring. Did some educational programming out of New York City, in the Midwest and in the South. I don't think we came through Sylacauga, but I know we came through Dothan and we came through Montgomery, so we were not too far. And also doing occasional work at regional theaters. And then I got into the program, the master's program at the University of San Diego. So that took me out to San Diego, and it was out there that I, after I finished my program, was performing in theaters, but also did some educational outreach from the theater into schools. And I've always enjoyed working with children and working with young people. And so that kind of got me into the educational field.
That is wonderful. I used to teach school, so I think that's wonderful that you go in. There's so much that can be taught using the arts, and I know we're going to get into all of that. So you transition from art, well, maybe you still act some.
I still act occasionally, yes. But transition to being a teaching artist, to doing things, outreach from the theater and in schools and with arts education organizations. And it was around then that I kind of stumbled into storytelling. And so I started storytelling, and that has become a really large part of my life.
Well, I mean, I usually read books. I don't do a lot of storytelling, but storytelling is quite an art. I'm impressed with memorizing the entire story, and I know when you were here last summer, the entire group was so engaged. They had parts they were to say or to do, and it was wonderful to hear them so engaged with what you were doing.
Well, thank you.
That's a lot of work, a lot of practice, I'm sure. But that's great. So you transitioned to teach, and do you go into schools? I know you do a lot of Zoom things also.
Yes. Well, of course, over the past couple of years, I've been doing a ton of Zooming. But I work with a variety of different organizations based in Atlanta and elsewhere. So if you'll indulge me, I work primarily with the Alliance Theater, which is kind of our flagship theater in Atlanta, one of the main theaters in the Southeast. And I work with something called the Teaching Museum, which is the educational branch of the Fulton County school system. So they bring residencies and workshops and performances. So I might be your third grade assembly, or I might come into a fifth grade class for 3 or 4 sessions using my art form of drama or storytelling to engage students. And I work with an organization called Arts Now, which also does work in classrooms, but it's more focused on professional development, working with teachers to share the strategies that we use for creative pedagogy, creative teaching. I'm on faculty at Lesley University, which is in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and in their Masters of Education program, helping to train teachers in arts modalities. I also do a lot of work with Utah State University because I have a colleague from Atlanta who moved out there and has, continued our relationship. And so I've gone out there, and that program focuses on students with special needs.
Oh, that's
It's called Arts Access, and really focuses on making sure that the arts are accessible to people who, whether it's hearing or vision or cognitive faculties or physical disability. So I've done a lot of work with them. And the last one I'll mention is an organization called Dream On Productions, which is in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Oh my goodness.
And Dream On Productions brings English language storytellers to foreign capitals, primarily in South America, and not just capitals, but large cities, primarily to work at schools where students are learning English and doing English language immersion as a kind of an adjunct to their classroom teaching, that they get to come and hear a storytelling session with a native English speaker.
How fun for them. What better way to learn than to actually hear it and understand it. That's fun. So you're a very busy man, a lot of online, virtual Zoom, and then in live, so a lot of traveling, I know.
Exactly, and it was interesting the past 2 years I've done some Zoom storytelling in English in Portugal and Spain and Peru and Chile and China. So, I mean, there was actually one time, because of course the time difference with China, I was up at 1 or 2 in the morning on my Zoom speaking to 2 to 5-year-old Chinese children who are just, beginning to learn English, and of course keeping it very simple, monosyllabic words, lots of puppets, lots of pizzazz.
How fun. That's great. Well, that's one good thing to come out of COVID is we can now do programs anywhere in the world.
Anywhere, anytime.
That's great. We're going to pause for a commercial break, and we'll be right back and talk some more with Barry Stewart Mann.
Adult Activity Center offers the senior citizens in the Sylacauga and surrounding areas lots of fantastic activities throughout the week. Sewing, ladies bridge, quilting, game-o-rama, ceramic classes, bingo, travel club, and lots more. It's all at the Maxie Veazey Senior Adult Activity Center located next to the J. Craig Smith Community Center in Sylacauga. Don't spend any more time alone. Get out, make new friends, and have fun.
Sylacauga's best kept secret? No more. Harveys on Noble is the place to go for the area's best food and drinks. Whether you're in the mood for steak, burgers, salad, seafood, or dessert, Harveys on Noble will not disappoint, and the atmosphere is perfect for catching the big game or just relaxing after work. Harvey's is open for dinner Wednesday through Saturdays, so round up the family and we'll see you at Harvey's on Noble, downtown Sylacauga.
Great. What am I going to do now?
Time to visit Brown's Auto Collision.
No problem at all. We've contacted your insurance company and we can get you back into original condition right away. And I just want to remind you that all of our work is covered by a lifetime warranty. We're done.
Wow, that was easy and looks great.
Brown's Auto Collision,
where quality is no accident.
Welcome back to Library Connection. I'm talking to Barry Stewart Mann, who is an actor, a storyteller, a teaching artist, a writer, you name it. You do a lot of different things. He's going to be our performer at the library today doing some storytelling and things like that. You and I talked during the break about what a teaching artist is. I would enjoy to hear, and I think everybody would like to hear, how you can integrate the arts into the classroom.
Right. Well, as I mentioned before, a teaching artist is someone who is, trained in an art form, whether it's a visual artist, a musician, a dancer, a theater performer, but also, well versed in the field of education. And what I do as a teaching artist is I do a lot of professional development with teachers, but also I go into classrooms.
Okay.
And I find ways of using drama to teach math, science, social studies, language arts.
Yes.
Now, of course, with social studies and language arts, it's a little bit easier because, for example, if we're studying some aspect of colonial life, it's easy to kind of act out what it was like. Maybe we're using pantomime to think about what we've learned about colonial Philadelphia or Benjamin Franklin, and maybe we act out going through a day in the life of Benjamin Franklin, and we light a candle, and we get on a horse, and we pretend to do all those things. So it gets the students up and moving and using body and using imagination to engage with what we've been learning about. And certainly with language arts, we read a story, we can act it out. I think we'll have some pictures to show on that in a second.
Yes.
With math and with science, one of my mantras is any noun can be a character, any verb can be an action.
Okay.
So I do things like I give students name tags with fractions on them.
Okay.
And they have to introduce themselves and talk about themselves. They have to come up with nicknames.
Oh,
right?
how
A nickname
fun.
is another name you are known by, right?
Yes.
And so if my fraction is 3/8, a nickname for 3/8 would be 6/16 or 30/80.
Yes.
And that's something that we want students to know when they learn fractions. And then we do an activity that I call the wholeness group, where I have everyone around, and it's kind of like an encounter group or a support group.
Oh, wow.
And I say, raise your hand if you get lonely, and the students usually kind of follow along. And I say, we all get lonely, don't we? Well, this is a chance to find someone who will make you feel whole.
Oh.
And this ties in with the notion that when we're learning about fractions, there's always a yearning towards wholeness. That is like, how do our fractions become whole numbers?
Oh, yes.
Right? And so we need to learn that 1/8 and 7/8 will make one whole. And so when we're in a group and everyone has a fraction, then we talk about this is your chance to find your best friend, the person who makes you feel whole. And it ties in with that human yearning that we have to find a friend that makes us feel whole. And we talk about how, you're the one who makes you feel whole may not have the same denominator that you have.
Oh, that's
right?
true.
And you might find that a couple, you find two friends, and the three of you feel whole.
Yeah.
So it's things like that where we lay over, a human story over the curriculum. And I've done this with all aspects of science curriculum, of social studies curriculum, of math, language.
That is amazing that you can teach fractions and teaching friendship are kind of at the same time. That is amazing. That I know we talked a little bit about. We'll say we have arts in our schools, and we do because we have an art class and a music class, and those are wonderful. But and we're going to look at our slides first, and then I want you to talk about the 3 ways we can engage with the arts. That's right. Let's look at our slides, and this is some of you doing some various things. Oh, what's this?
So this is an example of arts integration. This was working with a kindergarten class, and we had read a story called Sergio Saves the Game about a penguin playing soccer.
Yes.
And so the penguin wears a red scarf, so I brought in a whole bunch of red scarves. The woman on the left is my partner teacher, and I and the students were all being the hero of the story, and the teacher was being kind of the antagonist of the story, but we were acting out that key moment when Sergio saves the game.
Yes. I love that story.
And this was me as part of my theatrical career when I had the great privilege to play the character of Tevye in the musical called Fiddler on the Roof.
Oh, goodness.
And I am not a particularly good singer. I can carry a tune, but I had a great time playing that role, and I was told that I did a decent job.
I'm sure you did.
And this is from storytelling. So this is me telling a story, a Japanese story called The Listening Cap. And this is an example of, as a storyteller, I often get students up to participate, to play roles. I give them small costume pieces. The person on the right was being an old man who was sick, and the person on the left was a wandering beggar who had found a magic cap, a listening cap.
Okay. Yeah. That's fun.
And this was from a residency that I did with high school students who had been reading literature about social crisis, I Am Legend and Night by Elie Wiesel. And so we used improvisation as a theater strategy to create an ongoing story about a social crisis happening in the community.
Oh, okay.
And it's interesting because we were dealing with the idea of an epidemic, that was happening, and we decided it happened to anyone who had eaten fried chicken at a certain restaurant. The students came up with the idea, but it very much kind of presaged what we have all been going through for these past 2 years. And this is also from my performance resume. This is a play called Greater Tuna, which was a great hit 20 some odd years ago, where 2 actors play about 20 roles in a mythical town called Tuna, Texas. And this was me as an old lady.
Oh, how fun.
And this is a little bit more arts integration. This was from, we were enacting parts of the story of Mulan. Yes. Both based on the movie, but also from a retelling in a book. And this was a sequence where everyone was soldiers, and they were able to express their inner thoughts. And I had created that like an antenna with 3 balloons hanging down, and when I held it over someone's head, they would say what they're thinking about. And you can see the students had their hands up, they all wanted to join in. But it was a way of thinking about what all the different characters are thinking about in a given moment of a story. Wow. And this is part of a storytelling program that I do called My Mouth is Exploding. Okay. And it's about phonics, and it uses storytelling to teach phonics. And this right here is a song that I do. I call my character Farmer Phineas McPhonic. And so this is the song Old McPhonic Has Some Vowels. And I have students come up to represent the long and short vowels, and I sing the song with them.
How fun. What a fun way to teach children and engage them, and they're going to remember what they've learned by doing it and, you know, getting up and moving around or singing it, things like that.
Certainly with that phonics program, I have teachers and administrators tell me that was so much fun, and phonics has never been so much fun. And I think the kids, because we talk about all the different phonemes, that the F makes the F sound and the G makes the G, and we talk about the difference between sounds and letters, and we talk about why English is so confusing and how English draws from a lot of different languages and long and short, and we talk about the different types of consonants, but it's all in a very fun way.
How fun to reinforce what they've already been taught in a different way to help them remember it. That's awesome.
Exactly.
And you've worked with kindergarten through high school, or
through
maybe
college, through graduate school. Yeah.
Wow, it's all about the same, maybe. Just a different age audience.
I remember I did have a cohort of teachers. I love teachers, but I had a group of teachers in the master's program, and they acted a lot like 7th graders in terms of there was gossip and talking and cliques.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was interesting.
I'm sure.
But most of the time they were absolutely fabulous.
They were having a great time, I'm sure. Great. We're going to pause for another commercial break, and we'll be right back and talk some more about 3 different ways to engage your students with the arts, or your children. Hope to join us.
The Maxie Veazey Senior Adult Activity Center offers the senior citizens in the Sylacauga and surrounding areas lots of fantastic activities throughout the week. Sewing, ladies bridge, quilting, game-o-rama, ceramic classes, bingo, travel club, and lots more. It's all at the Maxie Veazey Senior Adult Activity Center located next to the J. Craig Smith Community Center in Sylacauga. Don't spend any more time alone. Get out, make new friends, and have fun.
Sylacauga's best kept secret? No more. Harveys on Noble is the place to go for the area's best food and drinks. Whether you're in the mood for steak, burgers, salad, seafood, or dessert, Harveys on Noble will not disappoint, and the atmosphere is perfect for catching the big game or just relaxing after work. Harveys is open for dinner Wednesday through Saturdays, so round up the family and we'll see you at Harveys on Noble, downtown Sylacauga.
Great. What am I going to do now?
Time to visit Brown's Auto Collision.
No problem at all. We've contacted your insurance company, and we can get you back into original condition right away. And I just want to remind you that all of our work is covered by a lifetime warranty. We're done.
Wow, that was easy and looks great.
Brown's Auto Collision,
where quality is no accident.
Welcome back to Library Connection. I'm talking with Stewart Mann, and he's our performer today. A storyteller, actor, artist, you name it. Now, I know you mentioned wanting to tell us the 3 ways to engage students. I guess it could be students or your own children, how to engage them with the arts.
Yeah, there are 3 things that we talk about in arts engagement, especially in our professional development work with teachers. We talk about what's called arts for art's sake, and this is what you have in your music class at school. The music teacher is there to teach about music as a separate subject matter. And generally a music teacher is not thinking about teaching music connected with social studies or with math or with any, I mean, obviously there's math built into music. Students need a certain foundation in math, but the music teacher wants to teach about music. The art teacher wants to teach about art. And that is art for art's sake. Then there's something we call arts enhancement, and that is where in teaching a curricular subject, we use an art form. So there's an arts enhancement we have all done, and that is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? That is the way we learn our alphabet. And we teach, and we're using music to teach the alphabet. And anyone who has worked with younger children, you know we're constantly using songs to teach things, and they help us remember. But when we're doing that, we're not teaching anything about the art form. We're just using the art form. Okay. Similarly, if we said, well, we just read a storybook, now let's get up and act it out, we would just let the students act it out, and you know, unless we're teaching about it, that's just arts enhancement. Arts integration is when we try to lift up both subject matters, both the content area, which would be our science or our math or our social studies, and the art form, music or drama or art. Being an actor and a storyteller and a puppeteer, I'm really focused on the drama as the art form. But the point being that if I'm doing arts integration, that as I'm teaching about the Civil War or about the Great Depression or about 3-dimensional figures or about the water cycle or about life cycles, I'm using drama to do it, but I'm also teaching about this is what we do to do good pantomime. This is what a tableau is. This is how improvisation is done. So for example, in that slide we saw a few minutes ago with the teenagers who were acting out social crisis, and you know, we took a lot of time to practice improvisation, to show what the rules of improvisation are, to get students feeling comfortable, and even to recognize that we all do improvisation in our lives. You know. So that's what arts integration is.
I love that. And I guess since I taught small children, I like when you said you teach the water cycle, you draw it. But let's talk about what color blue and things like that.
Right, and how we're going to arrange it on the paper, how we're going to use our art to communicate it. Exactly.
That is great. Wow. If I had small children, I do have small children at story time. I'm going to try and do some of that. So
and it might even be that to do that, then we say, well, you get 3 sheets of paper, a white, a light blue, and a blue. So we're talking about tonality. You know, or 3 different shades of blue, which is you know, addressing our art standards. And a key thing is that for a classroom teacher who is teaching generally her standards, his standards, you know, knowing that a 3rd grader is supposed to learn this in science or this in math, that there are art standards as well. Every state has them. There are also national art standards. So for us to be aware of those as well.
That's great. So you do teach to the standards a lot of time. You're aware of what they are.
I'm aware, yes. That's where I'm grounded in the pedagogy and the teaching practice as well.
That's great. Wow, that is good to learn it from your teacher in a classroom setting and then learn it from you and all the different things. That is amazing. You also work with ELL students, don't you? What do you do with
ELL means English Language Learners. And I don't know about here in Alabama. I know in the Atlanta metro area we have a lot of schools with a lot of students who speak other languages as their first language, primarily Spanish, but we're getting a lot from African countries and Asian countries as well. And so there are strategies to make sure that they can, you know, be part of what we're doing. Some of that is about how we repeat things, how we pronounce things clearly, how we use our hands, how we're visual with them. I do speak a fair amount of Spanish, so I am strategic about how I use my Spanish. Sometimes it's really a matter of using my Spanish to make them feel comfortable, to let them know they can ask me things in Spanish, and also to let them know that as they're struggling with English, so I have struggled with Spanish for many years.
That's true. I guess that makes them feel better. Yeah, we all struggle.
They laugh at me when I make mistakes. Or I'm saying, how do you say this? I can't find the word.
Oh, good. That's great. To tell when you've made a mistake and just admit it. Kids need to hear that. I know. You also work with special needs children, children on the spectrum, autism spectrum.
Yes, one of the organizations I work with out in Utah, as I mentioned, is called Arts Access, and it's especially focused on students with special needs all up and down the grade and age levels, even in community settings with adults. And so I've had some training in, what to find on the autism spectrum, to understand that it is very much a spectrum in many directions, and that every student is unique and individual.
That makes you have to, change the way you do things.
Yeah, there's a lot of pivoting, a lot of meeting them where they are, but I also feel like that informs my practice in what we call a neuronormative classroom, in a classroom where we don't have students, because even in a normal classroom, we have our outliers. We have students who, need more movement, or are shyer, or always have their hand up. And we have to adapt to them.
That's great. Every school teacher has, and when you're coming in, that's what you're doing too. Right, You do a lot with STEAM also, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, which is really big in the schools. They're promoting that a lot.
Exactly, and I find in my storytelling, I do a lot of STEAM in terms of I have to design things. Because I'm not just telling a story, but I'm creating backdrops, I'm creating props, excuse me, in the stories I'm doing today, I had to figure out a simple creative way to make some baby octopi. Because of course this summer we're talking about oceans of possibilities. So one of the pieces that I'm doing has some baby octopi, and you'll see in a little while.
We're going to learn a new word.
What I thought is a creative way.
How neat! And thank you for changing your program to meet the theme of the summer. You do that all the time. And this is Dribbles Deep Sea Dive.
Dribbles Deep Sea Dive, about a little drop of water who goes down deep and meets lots of creatures of the deep. And I do it through picture books. That I don't read the books, I tell the stories in the books as a way of enticing our young readers to go and find the books.
We appreciate that too. We want our kids to come in. So, well, I'm just very impressed. I mean, if I had to memorize the books that I read, that would be very difficult for me. But
well, you know what? It's actually not that hard, because I don't memorize the books per se. I just memorize the story. What happens in the beginning, what happens next, and I tell it in my own way, just as we tell our stories. You tell about, you had a flat tire, you tell it in your own way. And so I just remember who are the characters, the basic things that we're teaching our young students.
That is amazing. Well, I look forward to your program in about an hour or so, and I hope you will join us this summer. Barry Stewart Mann, of course, is today, and we have other programs. Monday and Wednesday are our outside performers, magicians, and storytellers, and musicians, and jugglers, and animals. And Tuesday is preschool story time, so I hope you will join us for that. And thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you, Barry, for being here. Thank you for joining us on Library Connection.